Okay, are you seeing it? All right, very good. So Beth and I are Salties Fellows, meaning we have release to work with Salties kind of as teacher representatives. And we work mostly in the professional development kind of area, working on our own professional development and then trying to share what we learn with other teachers. So this session is geared for early career teachers, but completely open to everyone. And looking around, I see a range. I think we'd like to know, if you guys don't mind, who is an early career teacher here? I certainly know some people who aren't. And by early career teacher, I mean you might consider yourself an early career teacher and have been teaching for years. It's up to you to identify yourself. We normally say in the first 5 years, but there's a range. There's a range. It really depends how and what and where you've been teaching. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I see 7, 8. Oh, good. This is very exciting. We see it. Do you guys mind typing in the chat? Can we see the chat? Hang on, I see it over here. Okay, now I can see the chat. Can you, everyone, early career teacher, not just write your college? I'm John Abbott, by the way, as is Beth. Oh, this is great. We have a huge range. How nice is that? And we even have someone. And Sophie, when you say you started teaching at Dawson, you mean like as in this semester? Gotcha. Great. So we have a wide range. And then we have people who are not early career teachers, but are here to participate in the discussion for whatever reason you have. So our goal today is, we have 2 goals. We want to share with you the resources that Saltise has, and we'll explain what Saltise actually is, that can help you. But we want to do it within the framework of how you might design a course, because many of us are just starting a new semester, depending on what you're teaching. And designing a course is hard, and Saltise has a lot of resources that can help you do that. So we're going to share it, but we're also going to kind of step through the processes of how you might actually go about designing a course. Like, where do you start? So Saltise, Beth, you can help me out here. Saltise, the acronym itself. Oh, Beth, you can type it in the chat. It's like a pop quiz. Stands for, I just did this the other day, Supporting Active Learning and Technology and Innovation in Studies of Education. I think I nailed it, but I rarely do. Keywords are active learning. So having our students engaged, participating, reflecting, and in charge of their own learning. Technology. Saltise has a lot of technological support and tools. Thanks, Beth. Innovation, trying new things. And importantly, we're geared to the post-secondary. So we are a community for CÉGEP teachers and university teachers, focusing on focus on English language institutions, but not limited to English language institutions. And we've been around for looks like about 13 years. But there was even hints of Saltise before then. I moved here in 2008, and Saltise was kind of becoming a thing. So we're a government-funded organization. It's not for profit. It's not commercial. Our only goal is to help teachers teach better and to figure out how to do that. Oh, hi, Liz. And Liz is the director of Saltise, who has dropped in to grace us with her presence. Liz, do you want to just say hi, like out loud?
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I joined late. I lost the link.
It happens.
Welcome. Thanks for coming.
So I've gone through this already. I didn't mention that Saltise is not just about professional development kind of things, but has a huge branch of research and is conducting research in CÉGEPs and universities locally in Quebec, and is using that to inform our professional development. So Beth, do you want to take this one?
Sure. So as Phoebe said, in trying to gear this session to both early career and I won't say it experienced, advanced, old, really what we're given when it's time to teach is we are given a set of ministerial requirements. And depending on your discipline, the requirements may be more specific or they may be more general. And this really, very often for new teachers, unfortunately, they are handed the ministerial requirements, perhaps a copy of a course outline, and they're instructed to have a good semester in their classroom. So we really wanted to frame this as what these ministerial guidelines are, is they are telling you what you need to teach, but they are not telling you how you need to go about it. And that's where you have so much agency in deciding how you would like to function inside your classroom. And if we go to the next slide, how we really want to work through this course level, these course level competencies down to what we're really doing on the day-to-day in those day-to-day tasks. So it is a big undertaking. It's a lot to take in. And I think a lot of us that have come from higher education, we're very, or we've just left our training, as Anne-Sophie has left. We're really focused on those competencies and what we need to do. And sometimes we get lost in there and lost in the content, and we're not taking that time to think about how we're doing it and what our students are getting out of what we're giving to them in the classroom. So how we wanted to frame today was really looking at this ministerial level of requirements, but also what we can do to teach them effectively. And then, of course, how SALTISE can help you do that, because that in and of itself is also a very large undertaking.
Thanks, Beth. Okay, so when you start your course planning, the first thing ideally that you would do is to figure out what your students need to be able to do by the end of your course, right? What do they actually, I'm not using any other word than do. What do they need to be able to show you that they can do? So the government, like Beth said, gives you the competency. It gives you the elements of the competency. It gives you these things called performance criteria, which somewhat break down what the competency is. So we've got the competency as kind of the upper level. This is what you're supposed to be teaching throughout the course. Then they have the elements and the performance criteria, which I tend to think of as unit level objectives usually, meaning you might teach them over the course of a few weeks. You might kind of weave them throughout your entire course. Kind of depends if you break your course into units or not, but they're those mid-level objectives. And then you should also have lesson level objectives, like the specifics. By the end of this lesson, students will be able to, something you can achieve in a lesson. The lesson level objectives are not given to you by the government. These are the ones that, depending on your program and your course and your department, either the department may have these specified for your course, or it may be up to you to figure out what they are, which is a big job. And only someone in your discipline can figure that out. But you do need to, if you're going to plan a course, you need to know these things. And just to be clear, we're not going, this isn't a huge course. We're not doing a lesson just in course design and learning objectives, but these objectives should be what students need to be able to do, not what students need to be able to know, right? Yes, there is knowledge in there, the content, but you'll never know what's going on in their head. So what you try to express your learning objectives is what students need to be able to do. What can they show you? They need to be able to solve. They need to be able to create. They need to be able to identify. I don't know, there's 1,000 words. I'm a physics teacher, so I tend to go to the physics teaching kind of verbs. But, and Beth, I'm gonna, maybe you'll say something about this too. our objectives are actually more than what the government gives us. And I think it's important as an early career teacher to think about this. You know, there's the competency, and the competency is important, but as you teach and the longer you teach, but even from day one, you will have your own goals as a teacher that you want to achieve with your students. You'll have some idea coming from your discipline of the bigger picture of what is the most important thing that students need to be able to do. 3 years down the road, what would you really like them to be able to take away from your course? You know, even if they never use it again, what should they be able to do? Okay, so you have these discipline-specific goals. My own goals that I really I work hard to get students to identify with physics as a discipline, as a community. I like to get them using the language of physics and talking about physics and thinking like a physicist. And these are not in the ministerial requirements, but they are important. They're acknowledged by our department too.
Yeah,
Yeah, please.
I was going to just jump in on the program goals. I sit on many different program committees, and a lot of early teachers and even veteran teachers aren't very aware that the program itself has exit profile goals for the students. And these program goals are above the level of the competencies. They're cross-disciplinary. Again, content is important, but teamwork, the ability to give and receive feedback, the ability to work together. All of these are examples of exit profile and program specific goals. And so I think what's nice in a course, particularly if you're here, you're hopefully looking to do something more active, to have those students more participatory in their own learning, is reminding students of some of these exit profile or program specific goals. And that gives you context. It gives you a reason why you are doing some of the things that you are doing in your classroom. So it places it within this bigger context for the students, why we maybe are working in a team today, or why we're doing a flipped classroom, why we're working as a group and we're trading answers and correcting and looking for errors. So you're using different skill sets, and those are building towards some of these exit profile goals. And they're a wonderful source of inspiration. If you're looking for something different to bring into your classroom, is to reacquaint or learn about these exit profile goals and to bring them into some of those lessons and that level that you're lesson planning at.
I see what Anne-Sophie wrote in the chat, which is she's taken a course in college teaching at UDM, which is amazing and very good preparation. It is really hard to know where to look. I have this document. Is that the one? Yeah, and this is a science program. It's going to make you dizzy. Science program document. It's got all the objectives, and I think it has the exit profile stuff in there too for all the courses the science people teach. But I didn't get this document till like I was 5 years into teaching at John Abbott, and it is actually all about to change. We'll have a new document soon. But whatever you teach, ask. Like, if you don't know what your competencies, or if there are learning objectives for your course, just ask your department chair or whoever it is you feel you can approach in your department, because they do exist somewhere. Beth?
Yeah, I was just going to say, ask your chair. Your chair should know where they are.
Ideally. So once you know what your big overarching goals are, and as well as the ministry requirements, when you're designing a course, you're going to want to think about your approach to teaching the course. And this is something that gets skipped by many teachers, not just early career teachers. Instead of thinking about how they're going to teach big picture, it's really common to just teach like you've been taught, right? Just you've got your goals. Now I'm going to lecture. Okay, today is the Biot-Savart law, which is a physics thing. And here I'm going to give you a lecture on this. And then here's your homework. And there's a test at the end, right? What's not always obvious is that that is one approach to teaching. That's actually usually called the lecture method or the traditional approach, because it's how a lot of us were taught, but it's not the only way you can teach your course. There are tons of different ways you can teach your course. And time to share some SALTISE resources. This is the SALTISE website. These slides are shared by Beth. Maybe we can we put them in the chat? Do you want to make it like a PDF or something and then pop it in the chat? I didn't do that. So the SALTIS website does have resources for the whole part of your course design, but when we're looking at that upper level, the big picture, which is where we're at now, there's something called approaches, meaning like what's the big picture about how you're going to structure your course. And I'm just going to share that for a minute. Hang on, because I opened it up beforehand. So if you go to the SALTIS website, www.saltis.ca, under teaching resources, strategies and approaches, you'll see here a list. They're labeled as strategies, but they're strategies and approaches. I can filter. My computer's slow because I'm chatting. And then you can see different approaches. So problem-based learning is an approach to teaching. It's not like a, here's what you do in one lesson. It's how do you structure your whole course? What does it look like if you teach with a problem-based learning or inquiry-based learning, game-based instruction, project-based instruction? So if we go in, you can see, what it is. It's an instructional approach that provides students with opportunity to engage in personally relevant projects, why you might choose it, to see if it meets your goals. Are these things that are really important to you? Are these the most important things to you? If so, maybe project-based approach is a good one for you. Who's using it? If you want to reach out to someone who's used it and ask them questions, they've agreed to have their name on the website. Okay, these are your colleagues, and you can just reach out. You just send them an email. The benefits, but importantly, also some challenges and ideally some tips. And then also the evidence, does this really work? What research has been done? We also have, often there's some videos on it, some extra outside resources. So this is extremely helpful just for starting to get some ideas. And when you take an approach, it's a big deal to take a new approach to a course. You don't have to jump in with both feet. You can just try it out a little bit and then build on it. If you find it seems like it might work, you can try it more the next semester, try a little more the next semester until that is your full approach. It's up to you how willing you are. I'm just checking. Okay, great. I will go back to our slides. This is you, Beth.
Yeah. So I'm known as the case study girl on SALTIS. I do teach. It's a flipped classroom environment, and this is for paramedic students. So they have their competencies. It's essentially a list of diseases through all the organ systems that I need to teach them the biology of. But what's important for me at my own overarching goal is that when they move on from my classroom, they are able to understand what their patient is presenting with from that biology perspective, so they can then understand how to help the patient, because they need to understand what's wrong in order to understand what to do to help that patient. So I wanted to give them a way to practice and see what it would be like when they were making decisions about patient care. So yes, it includes the content and it includes the background of the biology. And then we will, very lightly address on what needs to be fixed. So what needs to be fixed for that patient in order for the paramedic to be able to help them. So my idea was to go with a case study based approach. So I don't know, Phoebe, if you have the Courseflow open for
Yes,
this,
I
or
do.
if we need to. Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll just show you what Courseflow can do to map out a case study approach. And this is what I do every week in my class.
There we go.
There we go. Yeah, I was going to say I don't teach physics. So the students are given reading where they need to read through their course notes. And I do this in a social reading environment so they can ask questions. And every week I will go in and give them feedback on those questions and answers. They can answer and respond for each other. So they're doing and getting a lot of that content, a lot of the topic outside of the classroom. I supplement that with videos, a couple of them made by me, but a lot of them sourced from elsewhere. And embedded in the videos are some low-level, multiple choice, true or false type questions so that they can see where their comprehension is. A quick pre-class Moodle quiz, again, not very high level, but it's like a readiness activity. Are they ready to come into the classroom? Are they ready to participate in our case study, in our group learning session? And they get feedback from these questions. So anyone who's used an LMS, you can give the feedback for a right answer, a wrong answer, combined feedback so that you're able to kind of just in time teach them for the mistakes they might make in those readiness assessments. So in the classroom, I actually don't talk very much. I give a very short introduction, maybe a little mini lecture, go through a concept that's more difficult, highlight something we're going to do, and then the students work. So the assessments or of concepts, that's where they have their case studies. So it could be oh, sorry, I jumped ahead. We'll do first looking at their conceptual knowledge. So worksheets, I'll do a group quiz, individual quizzes in class. Again, some immediate feedback for the students. I'll make sure they're where they need to be. And then we go into the larger assignment for the day. So they'll go into their case study. So they will sometimes do 1 or 2 case studies. I have a 2-hour class with them, so it's a bit longer. And as we go through the case study, they'll answer, I walk the room, I let them use any resources they need, because for me, it's about applying their knowledge to this new problem. And so they will look things up on the internet. They can consult their notes. They'll talk amongst a group. Sometimes they'll talk to the group next to them. I will answer them a question. I will walk them all the way through an answer if they need it, because I want them to learn in the moment as they're working on that case study. I then collect them, grade them, they get them back the next week, and we start again on our next topic. So this is my week. It's very, very repetitive, and it becomes a routine for the students very, very quickly, where they are able to understand what's required of them, how I'm going to assess them, and where the learning is happening. So it's worked very nicely. The students really enjoy the class. And they really know what to expect when it's time for the major assessments, because they're essentially seeing those worksheets and case studies when they're having their formative assessments. So they know what they're coming into for their formative assessments as well.
Thanks, case study lady. So Beth showed us like not only an example of an approach you can take that's not just the traditional lecture, notes, quiz, homework assignment, traditional method, and one that is on the website, the Saltise website. But she also showed us Courseflow, which is a Saltise created, freely available tool for all of us, which allows you to, as you saw what Beth did with it for a course, map out your course. Instead of like your traditional just grid map of here's what I'm going to teach and when I'm going to teach it, Courseflow is developed and is still in development. It's constantly improving on Saltise. And it allows you to, here, maybe I will just very quickly. Well, I can't actually change. Map out your whole course or just a part of your course. You can map just mini activities. It's very flexible. You can move things around. You can link to any of your materials. Everything you have can be in one place. It's an amazing tool, actually, and we're learning how to use it more and more every day. I think there's a session. Has it happened yet? Actually, is happening right now? There's Courseflow sessions in the IPD, and they'll be at the Saltise conference too. Okay. So that is a really useful resource for anyone planning a course at any level. Okay, so that's the big picture. You know, what is your course? Is the basic structure of your course going to look like? And you've done it now intentionally if you've gone this route of thinking of your goals and then choosing an approach. You haven't just done what's always been done before. So the next step is the unit level, that mid-level objective provided by the ministry, but always kind of situated in the bigger context of those bigger goals that you're trying to achieve. So, Yeah, we didn't put any examples of that in here, did we, Beth? That's fine. So you think you know your unit level objectives already. Once you've got those set, you're going to want to think about your major assessments in your course. So you know the basic structure of your course, you know what students should be able to do throughout the course. And now you're looking at just those major summative assessments. Where and when are they going to happen and what are they going to look like? So what SALTISE has to, actually, Beth, do you want to talk through this slide before I talk about SALTISE's resources?
No, I think you can show them. I did misspeak before. I said formative instead of summative, but that's okay.
Summative means the big assessments that are worth quite a bit of grades and assess at that unit level. They might be assessing like lesson objectives, but they're focused on, did students meet the higher level objectives? Where formative are the smaller assessments that are worth very little, sometimes no grades. They might assess lesson level objectives only, and they happen a lot throughout the semester. Okay, so one SALTISE resource for assessments, is not just one, there's a lot of resources, are the webinars we're having. And Liz typed that in the chat for us at one point. In fact, sorry, I'm going to open the chat. Oh, thanks, Kathy. I see that Kathy had, sorry, I just mentioned, see in the chat that when I asked about a session on Courseflow, Kathy reminded me that we're having one tomorrow morning that she will be running, but it is focused on the program level and not the course development level. Still, it would be worth checking out. So yeah, SALTISE has regular webinars. We have one coming up on February 2nd. I don't see here. I'll show you on a slide later, but you can see we have had a lot of webinars on assessment. Assessment is such a huge topic for teachers. It's remaining a huge topic. I mean, it's never going to go away. And now with artificial intelligence, we're asking all these new questions about assessment, and we're all rethinking how we assess. So the workshop on February 2nd looks at this. There's another workshop coming up later in February. We're going to keep talking about assessment. So if you want to ask interesting questions about how you might assess your students that go beyond simply just giving them a test, this is a great resource. Not all, but many of the past webinars have been recorded and are available on our website too. Okay, there's the one on February 2nd. I knew it was in here somewhere. So Usha James is the executive director of this really neat institution called the Critical Thinking Consortium. And she's going to be talking to us about looking at assessment, but through an equity lens. So she'll be talking about things like universal design for learning, but not just that. She has a very interesting perspective that's going to be useful. Okay, so we started with the approach, thought about how we structured the entire course, broken it up into units as needed, figured out where and what our summative assessments are going to be. And so the last thing is the day-to-day level that Beth mentioned before. What do you actually do in and out of the classroom? So your lesson level objectives, and like I said, these can be the trickiest ones to design because they're not handed to you by the ministry, and your department may or may not have them, and they may or may not be flexible. It really depends on your course, but talk to your chair. So when you're planning your lessons, how are you going to teach these lesson level learning objectives? SALTISE has strategies and activities. So that's at the more of the lesson level rather than approaches, which is your structure of your entire course. And I'm going to show you on the website. Okay, here strategies are in here. They're kind of mixed in with the approaches, but you can filter for the strategies. They give you things like concept mapping. That's a strategy you can use. Okay, so they're generic strategies that have been found to be very successful at achieving certain types of learning objectives, depending on the strategy. And so if you go to the website and you look, you can get an overview, you know, why you might use it, depending. Are you looking for relational reasoning? If so, great, concept mapping might be for you. Again, who's using it? People you can reach out to if you have questions. Benefits and challenges, including tips. For every strategy, there should be. This is an old Courseflow. Courseflow has evolved. You've seen the latest evolution of it, but a course flow for that strategy. What does it look like? What does the teacher do outside of class? What do the students do outside of class? In class, what do students do? In class, what does the teacher do? So step by step. And tons of more information. We also have actual activities that have, so strategies are generic. You can tailor them for your course, but there's also tons of activities that have been designed by other CÉGEP teachers. And even some people in this session have contributed here. You can contribute. If you have a cool activity that you've done and you found it really successful, send us an email and we'll get it up on the website. Because the more the merrier, especially we want a wide variety of disciplines. So here you can, oh, sorry, I'm gonna have to move this bar. You can sort by disciplines, instructional level. Well, we're just CÉGEP and university, but you might want to do that. If there's a particular strategy you want to see in action, like for example, a 2-stage exam, you can filter purpose, time, class size, there's lots. And if you go in, you get all that same information that we had for the other types of things. You get an overview, you get why you might do it, you get the course flow, you see who created it, who you can ask, benefits, challenges, tips for using it. And depending what you teach, you might be able to straight up use the activity, or it might just be there to give you a great idea. You're like, Beth and I have both done this. We see something, we're like, well, that's not my learning objectives, but this would work really well if I just did this to it, and we use it. There's also usually materials like the teacher's notes or anything you might give the students, sometimes answers if there's a worksheet, things like that. So there's a lot here for generating ideas. What might you do in the classroom? You have no idea. You're like, my students need to be able to do this. This is my objective. Just hop on the website and check it out. You might find something that really you think, okay, this is going to work. Ideally, it will work. Okay, let me just find our. Oh, this is just an example of me doing that. Like I said, I've done this before. I teach a class 2 CÉGEP students about teaching little kids science. So it's an education class. And one of the things they have to learn are the basic theories of learning, how we understand how people learn, like behaviorism versus cognitivism versus constructivism. It's been a thorn in my side for years of teaching this course, because no matter how many times I try to improve how I teach it, I find they just don't quite understand what a learning theory really is and why we might need, like what we use them for. So I've struggled with that. And then I saw Corey Legasic's, a SALTISE member's card sorting activity that he does for working with theoretical frameworks in sociology. So a different subject, but a similar type of learning objective, having your students understand theoretical perspectives. And so I took it and I adapted it for my course, and I used it last semester for the first time, and it was so much better. I won't say I fully achieved what I want to achieve, because it's too much to ask my students to do in 1 or 2 classes, but it was way more successful than ever before. So that was me adapting a SALTISE activity. Oh, Beth, this is you, I think.
Yeah, so I adapted one, and Kathy's here. I actually adapted one of Kathy's active learning activities. So still within my case study theme within that course, I wanted the students to be better able to distinguish something within the respiratory system. And so that's what I started looking for when I went into the SALTISE website. And Kathy had a design your own reverse case study. So where the students actually designed their own case. So I thought that would be great, because at this point in the semester, my students have been doing case studies for I think 11 weeks. And I said, okay, now they're at the point where they can present a patient to me. And what I was able to do, if you click, it should show up, for the paramedic, no, not there, just anywhere. For the paramedics, they have to fill out patient care reports. So I was able to take something from their program and have them now use this in a biology course and have them fill out the patient information so that myself as a reader would be able to diagnose the patient from what they had. So I was able to give them a really authentic learning experience, something I hadn't done before. And I joked that I was embarrassed. I hadn't thought of doing this myself before, but the students loved it. And it was just this small little change to that weekly plan. And I was inspired by Kathy's idea to be able to do it. And it was, again, it ran really, really well. So it was a nice change for the students, and the paramedic department was quite happy to actually have something from their program being used in one of the contributory disciplines. So it was a nice activity.
Okay, so we looked at lots of ways that the SALTIS website has like ideas for when you're trying to plan your course, whether it's at the level of structuring your entire course or just what am I going to do today. But something else that we have, SALTIS has, is tech tools. We've already talked about Courseflow, which can help you at any level actually map out your plan or to see somebody else's plan. Like if you wanted to see how Beth's case study, case-based learning class actually worked, you could ask her to share the link. In fact, I think we have the link in the slides, so you can click and take a look. But we also have assessment tools. We have myDALITE. We have, I'll talk about what those are. Support for visual classrooms and perusal. Those are not designed by SALTIS, but we do support their use and are connected with the people who have developed them. I will give you an example of how I've used SALTIS tech tools other than Courseflow, which you've already seen. I do somewhat, you may or may not call it a flipped classroom. We're kind of leery of the word flipped classroom these days, but I like my students to come to class like Beth does, prepared. I want them to already have thought about some of the ideas. I want them to have done reading, and I want them to have done more than just the reading, but to have tried to apply some of what they learned from the reading. But more than just, I don't just want to ask them a few questions on Moodle. I want them to be able to talk to each other as they do it, at least see each other's ideas, and also to start using the language of physics. Because like I said earlier, I want to get students to try to identify and think like physicists. So I started using myDALITE, which is SALTIS platform that presents the students with a multiple choice that either I've designed or that somebody else has designed and I've used, because there's a big database. They have to choose the best answer. Okay, that's just like a standard multiple choice quiz. But the next thing they do is they have to justify their answer by writing a rationale. And then once they've done that, they get shown other students' rationales, and they get to decide whether they want to stick with what they already had and the answer they already chose, or whether they've been convinced by their peers to either switch to another answer or just at least appreciate a better rationale for the same answer that they chose. So they get a second chance to answer the question. And then finally, they get shown the expert's answer and the expert's justification, the expert rationale that either you as the teacher, whoever made the question, the author, writes an expert rationale. So they get to see all these levels. Oh, Jordan, thank you. So we won't take you into myDALITE, but it's just to know that these tools are here. They're free. We support you using them. We can help you using them. If you have any interest in using them, you just ask us, or you go to the website and just start doing. Beth.
So I think just to come back to where we were at the beginning, the how of your teaching and adding that in to these ministerial competencies. If you're looking for inspiration on what you want your how to be, or the way you put that in to your course, you don't have to look too far. So students are far more political and societally active than ever, I find. So just creating these intentional connections to something that's currently going on within society, that will draw them right in, right? So make your example relevant, make it current. Sometimes it doesn't take very much to switch that and ignite some of that political passion within our students. Create intentional connections between your program specific and the general education courses. So again, telling the students why you're doing something and creating those links, that matters to them, giving them a more of a holistic view of their program. And it helps provide relevance to your own course and the courses that they're in, either in the same semester or previous or upcoming semesters. Authenticity, it's something we talk a lot about at SALTIS. The classroom environment is not a real environment, right? But how can we mimic authentic learning within the classroom environment to make it relevant for the students? So any activity that you can think of that is a closer mimic of authentic learning, that tends to stick with the students. It provides for some deeper learning, and it's also more enjoyable as a faculty member, truly in the classroom with students that are enjoying what they're doing. And then that last plug, don't forget about those exit profile goals. So if you don't know where they are, which it seems many may not, they are a wonderful resource to try to pull in some of these higher order transferable skills and tasks that we want our students to be working with in our programs.
Thanks, Beth. I'm not going to go through the last slides. They're summary slides of the resources that we've shown you with even more pulled in. So ideas for your course, I've taken you through that. Some of the technology we support and have created and it's free to you. Professional development opportunities of various levels. If you need any mentoring or you have any questions, how and who to reach out to, it's all here on the slides that Beth has shared in the chat. Beth, are you able to put those in again so it appears at the bottom? And then a few upcoming events. I already spoke about the one on February 2nd, and there's one on problem-based learning that Liz already mentioned in the chat on February 9th as well. And of course, our conference at the end of the year, not to be missed. Yeah, right. And Jordan's just reminding us that everything is going to be available all in one bunch from all the sessions. But if you wanted to check out any of the website links or anything, is there in the slides as well. So we have, what, 30 seconds? We've been paying attention to the chat as it comes, so hopefully you don't have any big questions, but if you do, you can type them here, you can ask them, and you can send us an email.
We have a minute for a question if someone feels like speaking up. No pressure. Marianne?
Hi, it was something actually that Beth brought up in one of the final slides that really stood out to me, and that was that idea of creating intentional connections to course content from this program-specific and gen ed courses. That's great, but what it understands, what that means is you have to communicate. You have to communicate with your students to find out what courses they are taking in a given semester, because you can't necessarily assume that just, for example, because they're in a science program, they're all on the same track. And or what gen ed courses they're taking in particular. And besides communicating with your students, which will really make it authentic because they can then tell you, oh yeah, I'm taking this class, or so many of us are taking this class, communicating with your colleagues, which is what we're here for today, and finding out what they do in their classes. And as a gen ed teacher, especially for those program specific courses, to reach out to us is something I really welcome. So that's just a comment I wanted to make.
Thanks, Marianne.
Thanks so much. Sorry, it is my job to keep us on time so that everybody can get to their next sessions. I'll thank our speakers so much, and I'll ask you to thank them as well for a really enriching session. And I will say that I have gotten a lot out of the SALTIS conferences in the past, so I would encourage you to go and to check out the huge wealth of resources on the website.
Thanks, Jordan. Enjoy the rest of the conference, everyone.
Have a great day, everyone.